My name is Tessa, and I'm 20 years old. Some stories fade with time, becoming distant memories that blur at the edges. But this story, it lives in my chest like a second heartbeat, as vivid now as the day it began. This is the story of how everything I thought I knew about myself came crashing down, and how the person who caught me was the one who'd been standing beside me all along. It started 10 years ago, in a classroom that smelled like chalk dust and old textbooks. I was 10 years old, sitting at my usual desk by the window, hiding behind a book like I always did. I was that kid, the quiet one, the shy one, the one teachers forgot to call on because I never raised my hand. I preferred it that way. Books were safer than people. They didn't expect anything from you. Then she walked in. The teacher introduced her as Sophia, a new student who'd just moved to our town. I watched as Mrs. Patterson scanned the room, looking for an empty seat, and my stomach dropped when her eyes landed on the desk next to mine. "You can sit next to Tessa," she said, pointing at me. Sophia walked over, her backpack bouncing against her shoulders, and slid into the chair beside me. She turned immediately, flashing me the brightest smile I'd ever seen. "Hi, I'm Sophia. What's your name?" "Tessa," I whispered, barely audible. If she noticed how quiet I was, she didn't care. She just kept talking, her words tumbling out like water from a fountain. She told me about her old school, about how her family had moved because of her dad's job, about her favorite toys, about how much she loved to draw. I sat there, stunned, watching this confident, radiant girl who seemed completely unafraid of the world. She was everything I wasn't. While I hid behind books, she raised her hand in class. While I ate lunch alone, she made friends within days. While I walked with my eyes on the ground, she walked like she owned the hallway. Watching her was like watching sunshine break through clouds. You couldn't help but be drawn to it. "She's so cool," I thought to myself that first day. "It'll be fun having her around." I had no idea how right I was. From that day forward, we became inseparable. Sophia decided we were going to be best friends, and that was that. She didn't ask permission. She just folded me into her life like I'd always belonged there. We shared lunches, trading sandwiches and giggling over inside jokes. We played together during breaks, creating elaborate imaginary worlds that only we understood. We walked home together every afternoon, talking about everything and nothing. Our backpacks heavy with homework we'd eventually do while sitting on her bedroom floor. She brought me out of my shell, bit by bit. With her, I didn't need to hide. Years passed. We grew from children into teenagers, from teenagers into young women. Through middle school awkwardness and high school drama, through first crushes and broken friendships, through family troubles and personal struggles, we remained constant. We were the kind of friends people envied. The kind who finished each other's sentences and communicated with just a look. By the time we turned 20, we were attending the same university, studying in the same department. We'd planned it that way, unable to imagine our lives on separate paths. My parents used to joke that we were joined at the hip. Sophia's mom called us the dynamic duo. I cherished our friendship more than anything in the world. She understood me in ways no one else did. She knew when I needed space and when I needed company. She knew how to make me laugh when I was drowning in stress. She knew all my secrets, all my fears, all my dreams. Well, almost all of them, because somewhere along the way, something changed. Or maybe it had always been there, lurking beneath the surface, and I'd just been too blind or too scared to see it. It started so subtly I didn't even notice at first. We'd be watching a movie together on her couch, and I'd realize I wasn't watching the screen anymore. I was watching her, the way she laughed at funny scenes, throwing her head back on self-consciously, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, the way the light from the television played across her face, highlighting the curve of her cheek, the softness of her lips. My heart would start racing for no reason. A warmth would spread through my chest, making it hard to breathe. I'd force myself to look away, confused and frightened by these strange sensations. What was wrong with me? I grew up in a traditional family with clear expectations about how life should go. Love was simple. You met a nice boy, you fell in love, you got married, you had children. That was the path. That was what was right, what was normal, what was acceptable. I'd never questioned it before. I'd never had reason to. But now, sitting next to my best friend, feeling my pulse quicken every time her hand accidentally brushed against mine, I couldn't deny that something was different. Something had shifted, like tectonic plates moving beneath the surface of my carefully constructed world. It terrified me. She's just your best friend? I told myself firmly, lying in bed at night and staring at the ceiling. Don't overthink this. Don't make it weird. You're just confused. This will pass. But it didn't pass. If anything, it grew stronger. I tried to push the feelings down, to bury them so deep they'd never see daylight. I went on dates with boys from our university, nice boys, decent boys, boys who checked all the right boxes. They'd take me to coffee shops and movies, walk me home, kiss me goodnight on my doorstep. And I'd feel absolutely nothing. No butterflies, no racing heart, no warmth in my chest. Just a hollow emptiness, like I was going through the motions of a play without understanding my lines. But with Sophia, everything felt different. Everything felt right. When she laughed, the whole world seemed brighter. When she was sad, I felt her pain like it was my own. When she walked into a room, it was like someone had turned on all the lights. She filled some void in me I hadn't known existed. I tried to convince myself it was just because we were so close, because we'd been best friends for 10 years, because she knew me better than anyone. That had to be it. Best friends were supposed to feel important to each other, right? This was normal. This was fine. It'll pass, I whispered to myself in the dark, even as tears slipped down my cheeks. It has to pass. But the feelings only intensified. We fell into a comfortable routine that year at university. We'd meet every morning before classes, grabbing coffee from the campus cafe. Her with her usual caramel latte, and me with my plain black coffee that she constantly teased me about. You drink coffee like a 70-year-old accountant, she'd laugh, and I'd roll my eyes but secretly love every word. We attended lectures together, always choosing seats next to each other. She'd whisper jokes during boring presentations, drawing little cartoons in the margins of her notebook to make me smile. I'd help her with the subjects she struggled with, patiently explaining concepts until they clicked. We balanced each other perfectly. After classes, we'd have lunch together at the campus cafe, sitting at our usual table by the window. We'd talk about everything: upcoming exams, our dreams for the future, our fears and insecurities. With her, conversation flowed as easily as breathing. Most evenings, we'd end up at my apartment. My parents both worked late shifts, which meant we had the place to ourselves. We'd spread our homework across my bed, textbooks and laptops creating a chaotic landscape of academia. Sometimes we'd actually study. Other times we'd abandon our work entirely, lying side by side and talking about nothing and everything. Those were my favorite moments, the comfortable silence punctuated by her laughter, the way she'd absent-mindedly play with her hair while she read, the warmth of her presence beside me, solid and real. Being with her felt like coming home. She'd share stories about her childhood, her family, her adventures. I'd open up about my insecurities, my worries, my fears about the future. "Tessa," she said once, looking at me with those impossibly kind eyes. "You're so smart. You're so talented. You can achieve anything you want. Don't let your fears hold you back." Her words wrapped around my heart like a warm blanket. But lately, something else had been weighing on me. Something I was too embarrassed to admit, even to her. I was 20 years old, and I'd never kissed anyone. It seemed like such a small thing, but it felt enormous. My friends talked casually about their relationships, their boyfriends, their first kisses. They'd share stories and laugh, and I'd sit there silently, smiling and nodding, pretending I could relate. But I couldn't. Why am I like this? I'd wonder. lying awake at night. Am I broken? Am I different? What's wrong with me? I was too ashamed to tell anyone, even Sophia. She'd probably think I was weird, immature. She'd had boyfriends before. She knew what it was like to be desired, to be loved romantically. How could she possibly understand? So I kept it to myself, this secret shame that grew heavier with each passing day. Until one evening when everything changed. We were at my apartment, sprawled across my bed with our laptops open, supposedly working on an essay due the next week. But the conversation had drifted, as it often did, away from academics and into more personal territory. Sophia was telling me about her ex-boyfriend Daniel, and how they'd broken up because they wanted different things. He was nice, she said, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. But there was just no spark, you know? Like we'd kiss and I'd feel. Nothing. The word kiss sent a jolt through my chest. Jealousy, sharp and unexpected, pierced through me at the image of her with someone else. Her lips pressed against his. I pushed the feeling down quickly, horrified by my own reaction. How did you know? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. That there was no spark, I mean. She thought about it, her brow furrowing adorably. I guess, when you kiss someone and it feels right, you just know. Your heart races. You get butterflies. Everything else fades away. With Daniel, it just felt like pressing faces together, I guess. I laughed, but it sounded hollow even to my own ears. She turned to look at me more fully, setting her laptop aside. Have you ever felt that? That spark with someone? This was my moment. I could tell her about the dates I'd been on, make up stories about boys who'd kissed me. I could maintain the facade that I was normal, experienced, just like everyone else. Instead, the truth tumbled out before I could stop it. Sophia, I've never kissed anyone. The words hung in the air between us, heavy and vulnerable. I immediately wanted to snatch them back, to pretend I'd never spoken them aloud. My cheeks burned with embarrassment, and I couldn't bring myself to meet her eyes. I mean, at 20 years old, it feels so weird, I continued, the words spilling out now that I'd started. Everyone else has experienced it already. They all talk about it so casually, like it's no big deal. And I just sit there, pretending I know what they're talking about. I'm scared that when it finally happens, I'll mess it up completely. I won't know what to do, and whoever I'm with will think I'm some kind of freak. I risked a glance at her, expecting to see judgment, or pity, or worst of all, amusement. Instead, her expression was soft, understanding, without a trace of mockery. "Tessa," she said gently, reaching over to take my hand. The touch sent electricity racing up my arm. That's completely normal. There's nothing wrong with you at all. Lots of people haven't had their first kiss at 20. Everyone moves at their own pace. There's no timeline you're supposed to follow. But, no buts, she interrupted, squeezing my hand. You're not weird, you're not broken, and you're definitely not a freak. You're just you, and you're perfect exactly as you are. My throat tightened with emotion. This was why I loved her, this unconditional acceptance, this ability to make me feel seen and valued exactly as I was. Then she said something that made my world tilt on its axis. "Want me to teach you?" I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. "What? Want me to teach you how to kiss?" She said it so casually, like she was offering to help me with homework or share her lunch. "We're best friends, right? We can practice together. It'll be like a game. No pressure. That way, when you meet someone you really like, you'll feel confident. You won't have to worry about messing it up." My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind at once. This was crazy. This was wrong. This crossed every boundary of friendship. This could ruin everything between us. But underneath all those thoughts was something else. A desperate, hungry hope that terrified me with its intensity. I don't know," I stammered. "Are you sure? I mean, Wouldn't that be weird? She shrugged, but I caught something flicker across her face. Was it nervousness? Excitement? Only if we make it weird. But we don't have to if you don't want to. I just thought it might help, since you trust me and feel safe with me. No judgment, no expectations, just practice. Safe. She'd said I was safe with her. And she was right, I'd never felt safer with anyone in my entire life. Okay, I heard myself say, my voice barely above a whisper. Okay, let's try. But you have to promise this stays between us. No one can ever know. I promise, she said solemnly. And somehow I knew she meant it. We shifted on the bed, turning to face each other fully. She moved closer, and suddenly the space between us felt charged, electric, like the air before a thunderstorm. I could smell her perfume, something floral and light that I'd smelled 1,000 times before, but that now seemed intoxicating. Relax, she said softly, her voice taking on a gentle, instructive quality. Don't think about it too much. Don't worry about doing it right or wrong. Just let it happen naturally. Close your eyes. I obeyed, my eyelids fluttering shut. In the darkness, every other sense heightened. I could hear her breathing, slightly faster than normal. I could feel the warmth radiating from her body, so close to mine. I could feel my own pulse hammering in my throat, in my wrists, in my chest. Okay, she whispered, and I felt her breath on my face, warm and sweet. Here I come. She leaned in slowly. I could sense the movement, feel the shift in the air between us. Then her lips touched mine. The world stopped. It was soft at first, tentative, almost questioning. Just the barest brush of her lips against mine, so gentle it was almost not there at all. Her lips were warm and impossibly soft, and I caught the faint taste of mint from the gum she'd been chewing earlier. Goosebumps erupted across my entire body, racing down my spine, along my arms, everywhere. Every nerve ending came alive, singing with sensation. Then she pressed closer, more confident now. Her lips molded against mine, and she tilted her head slightly, adjusting the angle. It felt natural, instinctive, like our bodies knew exactly how to fit together. I felt her tongue trace lightly along my lower lip, a gentle invitation, a soft question. Without thinking, without planning, I responded, parting my lips slightly. The kiss deepened, became something more. Not aggressive or demanding, but tender, exploratory, achingly sweet. Her hand came up to cup my cheek, her thumb brushing softly against my skin. The gesture was so intimate, so caring, that I felt something crack open inside my chest. The kiss lasted maybe 20 seconds, maybe 30. Time lost all meaning. There was only the warmth of her mouth on mine, the gentle pressure of her lips, the soft sound of our breathing mingling together. There was only the feeling of falling and flying at the same time, of coming apart and coming together, of everything I'd been holding back for so long finally breaking free. When she pulled back, I kept my eyes closed for a moment longer, trying to hold on to the sensation, trying to memorize every detail before it faded. So, she said, and I heard the smile in her voice. How was it? Do you feel more ready for the real thing now? I opened my eyes slowly. She was looking at me with that familiar, warm expression, that best friend smile, like we'd just finished studying, or watching a movie, or doing any of the other 1,000 ordinary things we did together. But there was something else in her eyes, too, something uncertain, something searching, something that made my breath catch. I couldn't answer. My mind was spinning, thoughts crashing into each other like waves in a storm. Because that kiss, that practice kiss, that meaningless kiss, that kiss that was supposed to be just two friends helping each other out had felt like everything. It had felt like coming home and setting off on an adventure at the same time. It had felt like the answer to a question I'd been asking my whole life without knowing it. It had felt like every romantic scene in every movie I'd ever watched, every love song I'd ever heard, every poem I'd ever read. It had felt real. And in that moment, With my lips still tingling and my heart still racing, I understood with perfect clarity what I'd been denying for months, maybe years. I was in love with her. Not the love of friendship, not the love of someone who'd known her since childhood, but real, romantic, consuming love. The kind of love that poets wrote about and people died for and lives were built around. I loved the way she laughed with her whole body. I loved the way she pushed her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating. I loved the way she understood me without words. The way she made me feel brave when I was terrified. The way she'd believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. I loved her with an intensity that terrified me. A depth that felt like drowning and breathing at the same time. "Tessa?" she said, concern creeping into her voice. "Are you okay? Was it bad? Did I do something wrong?" "No," I managed to say, my voice coming out strangled. "No, it was perfect. Too perfect. So perfect that it had shattered every lie I'd been telling myself." "Good," she said, but she was still watching me with that uncertain expression. "I'm glad I could help." Help. Right. This was just practice. Just a favor between friends. It meant nothing to her, nothing beyond helping me prepare for some future kiss with some future person who would never make me feel even a fraction of what I'd just felt. The realization was like a knife to my chest. "I should probably go," she said, glancing at her phone. "It's getting late, and I have that early lecture tomorrow." "Right," I said automatically. "Of course." We went through the motions of her gathering her things, of walking her to the door, of hugging goodbye like we always did. But I barely registered any of it. I was on autopilot, my mind still reeling, my body still humming with the memory of her lips on mine. "See you tomorrow?" she asked at the door, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "Yeah, tomorrow." She hesitated, something flickering across her face that I couldn't read. Then she smiled, squeezed my hand once, and left. I closed the door behind her and leaned against it, my legs suddenly weak. Then I slid down to the floor, wrapped my arms around my knees and let the tears come. What had I done? What had we done? That night was the longest of my life. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the kiss over and over in my mind. Every detail was seared into my memory. The softness of her lips, the taste of mint, the gentle pressure of her hand on my cheek, the way my entire body had come alive under her touch. But beyond the physical memory was something deeper, something that shook me to my core. It was the realization that I'd been lying to myself for so long, suppressing and denying and pushing down feelings that had been growing for months, maybe years. How long had I loved her? When had friendship transformed into something more? Had there been a specific moment, or had it been gradual? So slow and subtle that I hadn't noticed until it was already too late. I thought about all those times I'd caught myself staring at her, all those moments when my heart had raced for no apparent reason, all those nights I'd lain awake thinking about her. I thought about the jealousy I'd felt hearing about her ex-boyfriend, the emptiness I'd felt on dates with other people, the way nothing and no one had ever felt right except her. The signs had been there all along. I'd just been too scared to see them. But now I'd kissed her, and there was no going back. There was no unknowing what I knew, no unfelling what I felt. The dam had broken, and everything I'd been holding back came flooding out, overwhelming and undeniable. I loved her. I was in love with my best friend, and I had absolutely no idea what to do about it. My mind spiraled through worst-case scenarios. What if she found out how I felt? What if she was disgusted, horrified, betrayed? What if I'd already ruined everything by agreeing to that kiss, by letting her see too much in my reaction? Our friendship was the most important thing in my life. Losing her would be like losing a part of myself. I couldn't risk it. I couldn't bear it. But how was I supposed to pretend now? How was I supposed to sit next to her in class, have lunch with her, spend evenings at my apartment with her, all while hiding this enormous, consuming love that felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. And then there was the other question, the one that made my stomach churn with anxiety. What about my family? My principles? Everything I'd been raised to believe? I'd grown up knowing exactly what love was supposed to look like. Boy meets girl. Boy and girl fall in love. Boy and girl get married. It was simple, straightforward, the way things were meant to be. But this loving a woman, loving my best friend, didn't fit into that neat little box. It was complicated and confusing and went against everything I'd been taught was right and natural and good. Was I wrong? Was this wrong? The voices of my upbringing told me yes, that this was a phase, a confusion, something to be corrected and overcome. But my heart said something different. My heart said that kissing her had felt more right than anything else in my entire life. My heart said that loving her wasn't a deviation from my path, but the path itself. Which voice was I supposed to listen to? I must have finally fallen asleep sometime near dawn, because I woke to my alarm blaring and sunlight streaming through my window. For one blissful moment, I forgot everything. Then it all came rushing back, the kiss, the realization, the fear, and my stomach dropped. I had to see her today. We had classes together. We'd made plans to meet for coffee before our first lecture. How was I supposed to face her? I dragged myself out of bed, went through the motions of showering and getting dressed. In the mirror, I looked exactly the same as I always did, which seemed impossible. How could I look normal when everything inside me had changed? My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. "Morning. Running a few minutes late, but I'll meet you at the usual spot. Can't wait to tell you about the drama with my roommate last night." So casual. So normal. Like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't shifted on its axis. I forced myself to respond. "See you soon." The coffee shop was crowded with students grabbing their morning caffeine before classes. I got there first, ordered my black coffee, and sat at our usual table by the window, my leg bouncing nervously under the table. What would I say to her? How would I act? Would she be able to tell just by looking at me that everything had changed? Then she walked in, and my heart stuttered in my chest. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. But now I was allowing myself to really see it, to acknowledge it. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, a few strands escaping to frame her face. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater. Nothing special, but on her it looked perfect. When she spotted me and smiled, waving enthusiastically, I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat across from me with her caramel latte. "Sorry I'm late. My roommate had this whole meltdown about her boyfriend, and I had to play therapist for like an hour this morning. It was exhausting." She launched into the story, animated and expressive as always, and I tried to focus on her words. I really did. But I kept getting distracted by the way her hands moved when she talked, by the light in her eyes, by the curve of her smile, by the memory of how those lips had felt pressed against mine. "Tessa! Earth to Tessa!" I snapped back to attention. "Sorry. What?" She laughed. "You're totally zoning out. Late night? Did you stay up studying?" "Yeah," I lied. "Something like that." "Well, you better wake up. Professor Martinez will definitely call on you today. She always picks on people who look tired." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand affectionately, a gesture she'd done 1,000 times before, but now it sent a jolt of electricity through me. "Come on, let's head to class." The day passed in a blur. I sat next to her in lectures like always, but I was hyper-aware of every movement, every accidental touch, every moment our arms brushed against each other. She whispered jokes to me during boring presentations, and I laughed on cue, but I barely registered what she was saying. All I could think about was the kiss, and the fact that I was desperately, hopelessly in love with her. At lunch, we sat at our usual spot in the campus cafe. She told me about an assignment she was struggling with, and I offered to help her with it later. We talked about an upcoming exam, about plans for the weekend, about ordinary, everyday things. And the whole time, I felt like I was living a lie. That evening, we ended up back at my apartment. My parents were both working late, as usual, which meant we had the place to ourselves. We spread our textbooks and laptops across my bed, settling into our familiar routine. But I couldn't concentrate. The words on my laptop screen blurred together. My mind kept wandering, kept replaying that kiss, kept returning to the terrifying, exhilarating realization that I loved her. "Okay, what's going on?" Sophia said suddenly, closing her laptop and turning to face me. My heart jumped.
What do you mean?
"You've been weird all day. Distracted. Quiet. Is something wrong? Are you mad at me about something?" "No. No, of course not." "Then what is it?" She searched my face, concerned. "Tessa, we tell each other everything. You know you can talk to me about anything, right?" The irony of that statement would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. Tell her everything? How could I tell her this? How could I risk destroying the most important relationship in my life? But looking at her, really looking at her, seeing the genuine concern in her eyes, the care she had for me written all over her face, I felt something snap inside me. I was so tired, tired of hiding, tired of lying, tired of pretending. If I kept this inside any longer, it was going to destroy me. "Sophia," I said, my voice shaking. "Yesterday, the kiss. It wasn't just practice for me." She went very still.
What?
The words started tumbling out, unstoppable now. "I've been feeling this way for a while. Maybe months, I don't even know. I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself it was nothing, that it would go away. But it didn't. And then we kissed, and it was like everything I'd been holding back just exploded. I can't pretend anymore. I can't keep lying. "Tessa, I'm in love with you," I said. The words barely more than a whisper, but carrying the weight of the world. "Not as a friend. I'm in love with you. Really, truly in love with you. And I know this probably ruins everything, and I know you probably think I'm crazy, and I know this isn't what you signed up for when you offered to help me practice, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way." Silence. Long, heavy, suffocating silence. I couldn't look at her. I stared down at my hands, at my laptop, at anything but her face, terrified of what I might see there. Disgust? Pity? Anger? "Tessa," she said finally, and her voice was soft, almost wondering. "Look at me." I forced myself to raise my eyes to hers. She was smiling, not mockingly, not awkwardly, but with a tenderness that made my chest ache. "Me too," she said simply. I blinked, certain I'd misheard.
What?
"I feel it too. I've felt it for a while now. She laughed, a little breathless, a little overwhelmed. "I thought you didn't feel the same way. I thought you only saw me as a friend. Yesterday, when you agreed to the practice kiss, I thought maybe it was a sign. Maybe you felt something too. But then afterward, you seemed so distant, and I thought I'd imagined it. My mind was reeling. You, you love me?" "Yes, you idiot," she said, tears shining in her eyes now. "I love you. I've loved you for so long. I was just waiting for you to be ready. I was waiting for a sign that you might feel the same way." Something broke inside me, not painfully, but like a dam releasing, like pressure finally easing. Tears streamed down my face, hot and fast, and before I could think, before I could question, I launched myself at her. She caught me, arms wrapping around me tight, and we held each other like we were drowning and each other was air. I buried my face in her shoulder, sobbing from relief, from joy, from the sheer overwhelming emotion of it all. I was so scared. I choked out between sobs. I was so scared I'd ruined everything. "You could never ruin anything," she whispered into my hair, her own voice thick with tears. "You're everything to me, Tessa. You've always been everything." We stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other, crying and laughing at the same time, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what we'd just confessed. When we finally pulled apart, she cupped my face in her hands, thumbs brushing away my tears. She looked at me with such love, such tenderness, that I felt like I might dissolve under the intensity of it. "Can I kiss you again?" she asked softly. "For real this time? Not as practice?" I nodded, unable to speak. She leaned in slowly, giving me time to change my mind, time to pull away. But I didn't want to pull away. I'd never wanted anything more in my entire life than I wanted this kiss. When her lips met mine, it was different from the first time. That kiss had been tentative, exploratory, uncertain. This one was sure. This one was real. This one carried the weight of everything we'd just confessed, every feeling we'd been holding back. It was soft and sweet and achingly tender. Her lips moved against mine with a confidence that made my heart soar. And I kissed her back with everything I had, trying to pour all my love, all my fear, all my hope into that single moment of connection. When we broke apart, we were both breathless, both smiling through our tears. "Wow," she whispered. "Yeah," I agreed. "Wow." We lay down on my bed, side by side, hands intertwined between us. For a while, we didn't speak, just looked at each other, still half unable to believe this was real. "What do we do now?" I finally asked. She thought about it. "We take it slow. We figure it out together. We don't have to have all the answers right now." "What about our friends? Our families?" A shadow passed over her face. "We keep it between us for now, just until we're ready, until we figure out how to tell them." I nodded, understanding. This was new territory for both of us, scary and uncertain and thrilling all at once. "Are you scared?" she asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "But also happy. Happier than I've been in so long." "Me too." She squeezed my hand. "We'll figure it out, Tessa, together." And lying there, her hand in mine, her smile lighting up the growing darkness of my room, I believed her. For the first time in months, maybe years, the knot of anxiety in my chest loosened. The fear didn't disappear, it was still there, lurking at the edges, but it was overshadowed by something stronger: hope. This was the beginning of something new, something uncertain, something that went against everything I'd been taught to believe was right. But it was also the most real, most true thing I'd ever felt. I loved her. She loved me. And whatever came next, we'd face it together.